My name is John Paul Moore, and I've lived in Austin for 37 years. Yes. How have I seen the city change in the 37 years I've been here? It went from pretty much a sleepy cottage town to what some people now consider the center of the known universe. My wife and I have been married 26 years, the first 13 years of which she told me that we really needed to move to Hyde Park. She had lived here when she was in college, and she finally convinced me to move back here. We have lived here ever since. We live in a 1938 home that we have restored. We've never been happier. Our daughter grew up here, and we have learned from our neighbors who have an incredible amount of expertise and understanding about historic preservation. These are lessons that are not immediately apparent until you get into the middle of something and figure out what it is that you're trying to save and what it is that you don't. Hyde Park is special. It was Austin's first trolley car suburb, founded in 1891 by Monroe Shipe, who envisioned a place of perfect shade, as he called it, known for its shaded avenues and for its corner mansions. When Shipe first began the subdivision, he sold those corner mansions to Austin's upper crust, but he realized pretty quickly that if he was going to fill up his subdivision, he needed a broader economic base, and he began selling smaller lots to the homes that were largely built in the Hyde Park's construction boom in the period about 1924 to 1936. Most of these homes remain here today, but they are a threatened species, and we are struggling to get additional protections to save this very important historic fabric. Among the most important historic features of Hyde Park is the 1892 home of the sculptor Elizabeth Ney. Ney, after a nearly 30-year hiatus from sculpture, was brought to Austin in 1892 by then Governor Oren Roberts. His idea was to have her sculpt the likenesses of Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston that are now displayed not only in the state capitol here in Austin, but in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington. The Ney itself is an architectural treasure, a unique castle-like structure, the likes of which you will find nowhere else in America. I should probably go back, when we talk to the Ney, I should probably go back to 1936, which was the Texas Centennial. The observance of this centennial is something that was overlooked when the restoration plan of the Ney Museum was put together. We celebrated our 100th anniversary in Texas in 1936 as the beginning not just of a state but of a republic. And in 1839, Austin, which is previously known as Waterloo, was selected to be the capital of the Republic of Texas. Both the 1836 Centennial in 1936 and the Austin Centennial in 1939 were commemorated in very special ways on the Ney grounds. These commemorations include a unique, low, graceful stone wall that was dedicated by the Violet Crown Garden Club of Austin, an organization that was founded by Clara Driscoll, who was also known as the savior of the Alamo, having bought the Alamo to save it from destruction. The Violet Crown and a number of other garden clubs in Texas participated in the first statewide project of the newly founded Texas Federation of Garden Clubs, working with Jacques Goebbels, a very historically significant figure for a number of reasons, to re-landscape the grounds in the 1932 to 34 period, and then to dedicate the wall, and all of this in preparation for the visitors to the museum during the centennial in 1936. These features are now threatened with destruction, incredibly enough, to us here in Hyde Park. Jacques Goebbels was an extraordinary figure, a Dutch immigrant who arrived in America, landed in Newark, New Jersey on a Saturday in, I believe, 1924, and by Monday was working for the leading landscape architecture firm in New Jersey. Goebbels would go on to do projects across the country, including the restoration of the San Jacinto battlefield and of Sam Houston's home here in Texas. He was the founder, actually, of the wildflower program that is so often credited to Lady Bird Johnson. When the Texas Highway Department prevailed upon Goebbels to become their first landscape architect in 1933, his first edict to the district engineers who operated the highways along in Texas and still do, was not to mow the rights of way during the spring wildflower season. That was the start of the wildflowers that are so much a pride to all Texans today along our thoroughfares. Goebbels in 1935 teamed up with Lyndon Baines Johnson in his first federal job as director of the National Youth Administration. He and Johnson and Goebbels then were instrumental in the creation and construction of 600 and some odd roadside parks throughout Texas. The wall that Goebbels designed at the Ney Museum can be seen as the prototype of these walls, these rustic features that were included in every roadside park throughout Texas. So those of us who grew up in Texas have memories, each of us has individual memories about these rustic landscapes, and it develops that the wall in front of the Ney that is now threatened was actually the design prototype for all of those roadside parks. And because they were roadside parks along highways that have since been modified and widened, so very few of them are left as to make the Goebbels Wall, the Violet Crown Garden Club Wall of 1939, all the more significant and all the more worth preserving. Enclave. I think Austin is an enclave, an increasingly precious enclave of real civilization in this world, and we are dedicated to preserving that. I think the old saw about those who don't understand their history are doomed to repeat it is embodied in restoration and preservation, both preservation of the natural environment and the built environment. We can't understand where we came from and where we are if we don't save the way of life that we came from.